Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are so glad you're here with us today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lots of coffee this morning for me.
I wish I had a giant cup of joe right now. I didn't get coffee this morning because it was 1,000 degrees at my house. Our AC broke, and the last thing I wanted was a hot cup of coffee. It's tragic. It was a tragic day.
You?
But the ice machine, I had to keep it closed because we had a whole power thing. It was a whole thing this morning. It was a whole thing. I did not get my coffee today, so that's probably why I'm just lackluster.
Well, it's also nighttime for you, morning for me.
It is at this
full
point.
Day of work.
I still want a coffee though. It's like I feel like I lost that moment, so I still want my coffee, even though it's the middle of the night. Anyway, we're talking about something that we have mentioned a lot haphazardly in our podcast, and something that Lynn and I talk about a lot, and it's being on the cusp of greatness, the cusp of chaos, the cusp of all sorts of things in your entrepreneurial journey. So we wanted to sort of break down a little bit what that means to us and how it shows up in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. We have spoke about it a lot, and what a lot of people actually, the position that they take is more that first entrepreneurial step, right? That first leap, right? That excitement or the uncertainty of like making that leap, but you know that you want it, right? So there's a lot of content. We talk a lot about that out there. Too much coffee, I guess, this morning. However, what Amanda and I wanted to talk about today is like, once you're seasoned and in it, and this could be in life and or in business, but you're on that edge of greatness. You know that you're on that edge of the next step, that edge of the next level. Regardless of how woo-woo you are or un-woo-woo you are, like I have this one girlfriend. She's always like, I'm ascending so hard. I'm like, every time I hear her say that, I giggle because men would be like, what the but it's the same kind of thing, regardless of the woo levels. It's like you are there, there's a gut, there's a voice, there's a fire that's telling you, man, you know that you are on the edge of something amazing. And then what do you do, right? What do you do? And Amanda and I have been here many times together and separately. And we're like, we have to talk about this. We have to.
Yes. And the one thing I want to say from the very get-go, we're going to talk about what you do. I just want to mention what you don't do.
Absolutely.
So the number one thing you don't do is stop. So many business owners I know personally and just in the world of business owners get so close to the cusp. They're just right there. They're at the edge of everything. And then it gets hard or harder or something else comes up and they quit just before it was going to get good. And the hard thing about that is recognizing when it's getting hard because it's about to get good and when it's getting hard because you need to give up. And there are times that you do need to give up. And I say that with love. I actually just got on a consult call with someone, I don't know, a month ago. I guess it wasn't just, but about a month ago, I was on a call with someone who was ultimately at the end of the call, looking at her numbers, looking at what her plan was, looking at, or wasn't, I should say, it was time to throw in the towel. Like she had sunk so much money and didn't have a strategy. And she had a great idea, but it was the right call for her to throw in the towel. And it wasn't that she didn't try and it wasn't that she didn't have all those things in place, but for her, she was beating a dead horse. I mean, it was time to go. And so she actually now feels way better and has started a new business venture that's doing much better because she did let go of that dead weight. And I've done that before, where I am so loyal to a business and I have so much love and passion, desire to do it. And I want it so badly. And Lynn has been one of those people to be like, Amanda, you've got to let go of this dead weight. Like, it's not serving you. Let it go. And those are the times we want to lean into those mentors. And what we're talking about here is when you are right on the cusp of something so phenomenally great, personal or business, that it's worth it to stick it out. It's worth it because there's always going to be, well, not always, there's always, I'm going to say, there's always going to be hardship in your business. Always.
Absolutely.
Even if it's, even if it's not horrible, terrible disasters and, COVID and things that you can't see. It's not always a big thing. Sometimes it's little things, but there's always hardship and there's always challenges, and it's not always worth it in some ways. But if you are really trying to get to that next level, you're going to have to stick it out. And that's what we're talking about here. So the biggest thing you can say is what not to do is give up. Don't give up.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that, but first I want to give an analogy. That's why I kind of snickered when you were talking about that, because I'll never forget when I was like fresh out of high school and I had like one of my very first hoopties. Hoopties, for those of you who don't know, is like a broke down car, but it still got me from point A to point B. And like literally, my best friend's dad would be like my mentor in the mechanic side because I was broke. I was, for those of you who don't know my story, I was pretty much living on my own because I was removed from the group home that I was put in the boarding school. We have to leave 2 hours after. Anyway, digressing. But essentially, like, I remember like I would change my brakes with him. I would do this, I would do that. This would break down. He's like, Lynn, like eventually, like you're sinking so much money into this. Eventually, like you got to cut the cord. Like there's this like threshold of like, okay, you're sinking so much money into it, and it's not going to get better. And I love that you said, find an outside source to kind of help you see the forest through the trees, because I think that that's really important. I do want to add another do not do as well to this, because not only do people stop, but then they might do the opposite. And we can go woo-woo on this side too. But essentially, a lot of times when we're on the cusp of change or on the cusp of something new that's great, that's coming into your life, the universe, or like your life, just throws a bunch of things at you that are other potentials to distract you, to say, hey, like, what about this? Hey, what about that? Hey, what about this? And it's so hard to like focus. And Amanda and I have had this conversation a lot. And I've been telling her like, nope, we're doubling down. We're doubling down. We're hyper focusing and we are doubling down on X. Like we are there. We are almost there. And I think that the other thing that you want to be cautious of and not do is get distracted by all the this and the that's, right? Because you're like, and especially for those of you now, we're all for like, if you are hemorrhaging, right? So if you need to make money, if you have to like do something, but yet you still want this, absolutely. Like sometimes you have to stop what we call the hemorrhaging in order to be able to like focus and double down on this cusp, right? That next level, that next step. But don't get distracted by all of this. Double down and move forward with that. This cusp is such an interesting place to be. And if I do take it from a woo-woo side, like I look at like life, like we have all these different layers that we learnings and different opportunities that come to us. And if we don't go into that next level, what happens is we stay in the same hamster wheel. So we're just kind of like staying in the same hamster wheel. We might have some growth, right? We might have some learnings, but we're not actually activating our fullest potential. We're not activating our bigger purpose. We're not stepping into a different greatness in which we could be, right? That's what that cusp is. The cusp is just the next level. Like if you play video games, it's that like you hit that next level. You can like die on the sword and stay in that level that you were on, or play it again if you want to. Like some people play the same levels over and over again. Or
Yes.
you can actually step into that next level, conquer the fear, move into that. And it's just, and yes, you kind of start from like, in the next level, there's layers of like learning. So you kind of start from the baby layer and then move your way up in that level. But there's excitement, there's opportunity there.
Yes. And I love the video game analogy because if I want to
Instead of my woo-woo
push a little bit
analogy.
there, well, it's not that I don't like your woo-woo analogies. However, I think it's a very tangible thing, the video game. So when you're trying to level up, generally speaking, there's some sort of quest that you have to get to. Like, so you're on this quest and then you have to achieve, whether it's tokens or a sword or something you're trying to achieve in order to get that next level. So I want you to think about that when you're in this entrepreneurial sphere. What is that thing that you need to get you to the next level? And it's not money. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, money will help. I mean, obviously, if I
Can expedite.
I don't know how to like the lottery, but if I won the lottery tonight, I would use that money to up level myself. But it wouldn't be the money that would be up leveling me. It's what I use the money to do. It's the thing that I'm doing with that money that up levels me. So it's not the money. So if you suddenly got a big raise or some windfall where you had an extra bit of money, that isn't what's going to up level you from a business standpoint. It's what you do with the action that you put in with that money that's pushing you forward. So I know that there's a lot of times, at least with my clients, that there's this block. Like, I'm trying to get to that 7 figures, I'm trying to get to whatever 6 figures, I'm trying to, wherever that block is, that mental block. It's not the money that you need to be thinking about. It's the actions to get you the money. It's the actions. It's what that money is going to do. It's not just the physical, tangible having the money. So when you're looking at that, at up leveling yourself in your business, I want you to think about, from a video game standpoint, what's that thing? What's that thing you need in order to get to the next level? And focus on your energies there, because sometimes it's forest for the trees. You can't get to the next level. I can't get through this forest because there's so many trees around. I can't see where I'm going. Sometimes you have to hyper focus on one thing. So if you think about, from Lynn and our perspective, we talked about this a lot, that we want to up level in our next book that we haven't put out yet, not because we don't have the ability to write it and not because we don't have the ideas, but because we know it's too much. So we actually pulled back in some ways and hyper focused on certain aspects of our business to up level ourselves, rather than just trying to put all the things that we want in action at once. So it's sometimes you have to kind of pull back a little bit, even when you're up leveling.
Well, yeah. Okay. 2 things in there. And then I'm going to talk about the pullback and up level. First of all, if you won the lottery, it'd be us that you're helping, not just you. Like, I'm part of this ride. And the second, I love you. And the second thing, I just lost my train of thought because of that. Like, it's us, babe. It's us together.
We all go up together, Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
Together.
The whole pull back, or you said we're not releasing our book because it's too much. It's not too much for us. I do want our audience to hear that. It's like one of the things that we recognize, that it was too much for our audience. And so, because sometimes, and I think this is a good point to make in the whole, like, you feel yourself on that next like level, is like, sometimes, and Amanda and I get this a lot, because we get a lot done. When I'm texting with new friends or whatever, they're like, dang, like you're so productive. Like, actually, this was not as productive of a week, and it's not flipping. It's just that Amanda and I know we work at a higher speed together, with each other, but also separately. Like, we're very productive people. However, it was too much for our audience, and if we're going to continue in this next layer, or this next level, or this next part of our journey, going to be playing with the same people prospect pool, which we are, then we have to evaluate everything. And so we made that choice. So it wasn't too much for us. It was too much for our audience, because we released 2 books in 9 months, and we were about to release a third, like probably would have been right around a year marker. So 3 books in 1 year. Besides all of the other,
that was kind of our original goal.
It was. So, anyway, so that cusp. So let's talk about some things to kind of look at. Amanda already talked about, like, finding a mentor, Find someone who can help you see the forest through the trees. Do not find yourself a yes person, and this person could be paid or not paid. Sometimes you might need multiple people depending on the dynamic of your business, the dynamic of you, also the company you keep. Like, it's ideal to find somebody who you aspire to be, that can speak to you, or that you honor, right? That has made those leaps, so that way they're out of the complexities of the relationship dynamics. Because a lot of people, Amanda and I definitely, but we work on it. Like, this is also like something I love people dynamics, and it's something that I pride myself on. But a lot of people don't have that. Like, they can't see outside of themselves to be able to give like a clear or unbiased kind of opinion or guidance or whatnot. So mentor is huge. Another thing too is, and this is something that I can remember, and I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but it was back when we were in Hawaii, and I remember, like, I was going through all of these like changes, and I was really like up leveling, like constantly, like in life and personal and business, and like making all these huge steps. And I kept telling myself, embrace change. Like, change is messy, change is chaos, and it is okay. And actually, my eldest daughter, I remember, put a sticky note, something about love the chaos or something. Like, I still have it somewhere, it like in a memory thing. I don't keep
In the
many,
chaos.
I'm not. Yeah. And I remember her like writing that on a little yellow sticky note, and I had it up on my desk. But change is messy. That lotus growing through the mud, like, you got to go through it. And at every level you are, like, some levels will be harder, some levels will be easier, but really, like, understanding that growth is uncomfortable, and it's okay, and it does get easier, but the reward on the other side is so incredible. I keep thinking of like that little meme of like the miners digging for the gold, and like how many people actually stop when you're so close. You are so close to it, but you're tired, and you're just like, you are just like not there. Well, that's what the mentor is, but also like that fire inside of you. Like, don't give up. If you absolutely, and if you are tapping in with your intuition, regardless of woo-woo or not, like, we all have it. And if you know more than anything, like, this is what you're supposed to do, then figure out how to do it and take those steps. Take them. Embrace the change, embrace that chaos.
Absolutely. And we know and acknowledge and recognize it is terrifying sometimes. And it is
hard.
But I mean, I love the quote, and I'm sure I'm butchering it now because it's late now, but a smooth sea did not a skillful sailor make.
Yep.
So if you want to be the best, if you want to achieve your goal, and you really, really want it, and you want to be the expert, and you want to be the go-to, you're going to have to navigate rough waters, and you're going to have to adapt and pivot and change and embrace that chaos, or you're never going to really be able to get as far as you could if you did. And we know it's scary. It is. There are times. We've been entrepreneurs for what, like 50 years combined, 40, 50 years now. It's a ridiculously long period of time.
I know we look super young, everybody. Yeah.
For the youthful age that we are, it's a very long amount of time in the entrepreneurship world. And I have definitely had my moments of, this isn't worth it. I would rather just have some mundane office job where I collect my vacation days and, get my 401k, move on. Those days lasted for about, I don't know, an hour before I remembered that that's never going to be me. Those days lasted for an hour, but it was a very long hour. And there's darkness there, but there's also a lot of light. And in your entrepreneurial journey, when you are on the cusp of greatness, there's going to be a lot of dark. There's going to be a lot of fatigue. There's going to be a lot of naysayers internally and externally. And it's whether or not you choose to rise above that and to persevere and to push forward and to really embrace your grit and go, that's going to make the difference.
Absolutely. There's so many things, but I know we're about to record another podcast, hint, because I don't know if it's coming before or after, but we will talk about this and like the shedding of what doesn't serve anymore. So I'm not sure what order if it is. So you already listened to it or you're about to listen to it because I know it's going to come back to back. But like there is like so much here is okay. I'm going to recap. Mentor, embracing the change, like having that resilience and like and agility and pivoting, working through the mess. It's also like sloughing off what no longer serves, right? What you were also saying. It's also about doubling down, like double down on that path, like making sure that you're doubled down. It's, I think in, especially if it's business, and it's a big move. It's really about like kind of clearing out the clutter and looking at like the core strategy that you need to do, the 1, 2, 3s, right? And even if, and Amanda and I do this too, like we know we're ready to hire an additional person. We've had people that help us and doing the interviews of the individuals to like find that right person. And that helps us get more clarity on our strategy too, because we're like listening to like what they're wanting us to do and all of that stuff, right? So like finding that strategy that is going to absolutely support you on that leap. Like, and the last thing I'll add too, and you kind of touched on this, but we didn't really like say it. And I think I might have touched on it too, is like connecting back to the bigger purpose, the why you're doing it. Like kind of like what you were saying, like even like, yeah, I fantasize about doing a 9 to 5 again, but like, oh no. And it's connecting back to like, why? No, why am I here? Like, what do I want? Like, why am I doing this? And it's not because of the money, it's because of so much bigger for me. And I know for Amanda as well. And connecting back to that, because that core essence of who we are and why we're doing things absolutely can help us and fuel us to make that step. So I love all of these points. Yeah.
So you mean you loved hearing us talk? Because
well, yeah.
I love us too. I love what we say all the time.
I do love it. I do love it. No, I think it's like, when we decided to talk about this one, and like I said earlier, it's so not, I don't think that leap or that cusp kind of feeling is really spoken about, because a lot of fears can come up too. Like you're like, even if you've healed and like worked through where your fears are coming from, like they never go away. And so it comes back up. And no matter how confident we are, no matter how go-getter we are, we still have to navigate that again. And sometimes like that can really like put a bruise on our ego, that can put a bruise like on our like emotional well-being, because our accomplishments, because we're like, damn, we already did this work, like why am I feeling this way? Like there's a lot of complexities that come with being on the cusp again that you have to revisit. And the thing is like, so those, and we talked about before, and this is something I know that is my phrase, those skeletons in our closets never go away. We just learn to dance with them differently. And when we're on the cusp of change, those skeletons, like they resurface. So either we're leading the dance or they're leading the dance. And it's really up to you to like make that decision, but they're still going to come. They're still going to pop out their heads and say, hey, you remember me? And it's like all of these things that we learned along our way that's going to give us the ability to lead the dance, to go into that next step. And I think that, a lot of people think like, oh, you've already made that leap, like it's smooth sailing, like you have just this great life. And no, as we grow, as we progress, there are many layers to it. And it's part of the journey. It's not a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of thing. Like it's absolutely part of the journey. And we're here for it. We're here for you. Like we understand it. And we think that it should be spoken about more.
Absolutely. Speaking about it more, we are doing a poll in this episode. So if you're on Spotify, you'll be able to go onto a poll, and we're actually doing a poll to see how many of you feel like you are on the cusp. So we want to hear from you. If you're on the cusp, what are you on the cusp of? We want to talk to you and hear about your dreams, what's going on in your businesses. So reach out, leave us a comment, do the poll on Spotify, and we want to hear from you.
Absolutely. If you're watching the YouTube, you can actually put it in the notes or put it in the comments. Put it in the comments.
We actually do read those. So you'll be talking to one of us.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I think we're about time, although I feel like we can talk about this one for a little while too, Amanda. I mean,
We're always at time and we're always wanting to talk more. That's just,
always.
it's like we're always excited. That's just how we are now. That's our
Yeah.
modus operandi.
Yeah. That's our emotionally evolved word. Because that's all we can say. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Don't forget to take the poll, like, share, comment. Make sure that you are, if you know somebody on the cusp or that's been there before, like send this podcast to them, have them take a listen. We want to hear from you. Make sure you're taking that poll or leaving comments in the YouTube comment section or shoot us a DM. Like, we are here for you.
Absolutely. All right, my friends, get after it.
All right, everyone, it's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.